Welcome to the Misty Rambles, your mystical getaway into the realm of spirituality, crystals, the paranormal, and intriguing conspiracy theories. We are your hosts, Nicole and Corey, guiding you through the veils of the unknown, where we embark on a journey of discovery and wonder.
Join us as we delve into the hidden depths of ancient wisdom, exploring the power of crystals, unlocking the secrets of the universe, and unraveling the phenomena that surrounds us. From the whispers of the spirits to the mind-bending mysteries that challenge conventional beliefs, we dive headfirst into the uncharted territories of the metaphysical.
Each episode will gather around the digital campfire, sharing captivating stories and thought-provoking discussions that will leave you questioning reality itself. Whether you're a seasoned truth seeker or a curious skeptic, the Misty Rambles is your haven for expanding your consciousness and embracing the realms beyond our everyday existence.
So grab your favourite crystal, light a soothing incense, and open your mind to the extraordinary. It's time to embark on an adventure like no other. Welcome to
the Misty Rambles. Welcome to another episode of the Misty Rambles. So on this week's episode, we step into the old Irish healing ways, which I'm sure you've all heard of before. The cure. Love it. This topic has actually really blown me away because some of the ways that they used to treat an illness, like even to this day, like it still exists, like fate healers, seventh son of a seventh son.
Yeah. Like, there's so many. There's
so many different forms of it. Like I found this thing actually, it was like, you know, they were just kind of talking about different ways of healing, but in old days in Ireland, in fact, people without the understanding of science back then, they often blamed an illness on invisible outside forces.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I read that, yeah.
Okay, so like bad luck or enemies. So you're thinking of like the old pagan ways, even like witches and everything as well, and how I suppose it kind of stems into this as well, especially with the herbology aspect of things, because there's a lot of herbologists across Ireland now to this day.
Yeah. There's so many
natural witch doctors, as you would call them, but it was saying like bad luck or enemies who would cause harm. So many used folk cures alongside the conventional medical treatments of the day. For the treatment was the most common of the non-serious ailments. So some of these cures involved rituals of sacrifice, magic, or verbal charms or acts of sympathetic magic. Like,
that's mad.
And like to this day now, people are still like unaware, and I think it's because it's concealed with the likes of, you know, angels and faith, as in it's God's work. But I think it stems so much deeper when you go into it. It goes way back where it wasn't God's work, it was natural herbal remedies, and we've even found some really ones.
Quite a lot of them.
Yeah, especially you by the side of things. But yeah, like rituals and charms could be practiced by patients or carers, but outside help could be sought in the form of a petitioner, which is kind of what people are nowadays. Yeah. Such as a fate healer, herbalist, or person with the cure. But yeah, do you want to kind of like maybe go into like some of the mad ones you found? I'll compare mine then. I'm so curious, you know. So
when I was looking at them, I was trying to find like the actual history of how people like got the cure, as like every Irish person calls it. Like I even see on Facebook someone post like, anyone have the cure for dry cough or something. And there's like, this is Jimmy, he lives in Cavan, this is a phone number, ring him. And it's like, there's so many of them.
It's so interesting you say Cavan, because it actually seems to be very, very common up this end of the country that they do a lot of cures. And for me, like I didn't experience that many as a child, but it's really big over here, you know.
So I found that cures were handed down to us by tradition from our forefathers. Long ago there was very few doctors to be found anywhere, so most of it was just the cures that people knew or that they had themselves. So some of them that I found was for warts, and it was, some people say that if you have a wart, a good cure is to steal a slice of fat bacon, rub it over the wart 3 times, and then hide the bacon, and it would get better.
Right. That's so interesting that you chose a wart, because my first story was going to be on my own wart that I had as a child. So it's a slice of bacon, and they rub it.
They rub it on the wart 3 times and then hide the piece of bacon. And it's funny because I actually found about 8 or 9 different ones that have said, like, it was different like forms. Like some were saying bacon, some were saying a potato, you rub a raw potato and then hide it. So a lot of it was to do with hiding it afterwards, which I thought was crazy. And like all of these I found through Dukas, which is it's like the old Irish school archives where like all the copybooks were like photocopied, and these are all written out by just anyone and everyone. So it's all like the old people who are passing these on.
Yeah, old methods, yeah.
Yeah.
The one that I had, so I must have been, I want to say maybe 6 or 7. I was quite young anyway. And I had gotten a wart, but I didn't know what it was at the time. And I actually went to a doctor and they tried to freeze it off. And I was constantly picking it and everything and nothing was getting rid of it. And eventually what was my nanny was like, I'm bringing you down to my friend Patsy. And I was like, okay. And she was like, no, he has the cure for the wart. So we went into this old man's cottage house and like you'd see him at mass and everything, and I had to give him €2 and he basically said a prayer over the coin, rubbed it on my finger and handed me back the €2, right? This was like, there was no money involved whatsoever, which is actually something I found as well, that they don't look for money. Same as faith healers, it's like it can be a donation if you wish. So I'd say within maybe 3 days, like that wart had just magically fallen off. That's mad. I mean, nothing was getting rid of this wart. So I just thought that was
there's something incredible. That these do work.
Yeah, and I kind of forgot about it and I was like, oh my god, but now it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Go on, tell me more.
Another cure for warts is to get a black snail and rub it of the warts and stick the snail on a thorn and the warts will go away.
Oh my god.
Some of these that I found, like, when you read them, you're like, there's no way. And then you're actually looking at them and there's like 10 other people who have said like the exact same thing.
I just can't believe that.
So for a whooping cough, if you meet a woman who was married to a man with the same name as herself, borrow a piece of bread from her and give it to the person with the whooping cough, and it is sure to cure for it.
I think I have one on that as well. I've one for nightmares here actually as well. Bluebells, the most common and most magical of Irish flowers, and it's believed to call the fairies when they're rung. So like when the wind blows through them, I'm assuming that's like their way of ringing. But they said that if you were to place them around your bedroom in a vase, that it will get rid of any of your nightmares. And I was like, oh my god, how amazing is that?
What other one do I have? Oh yeah, for cuts.
Okay, this is interesting.
Often heard people say that if you get a cut on a hand, a good cure is to put a cobweb over it and it would get better. A cobweb. Or, this is one that I've heard so many times, cures for sores and cuts is the lick of a dog's tongue. I don't know, have you heard that one? No. I've heard that one, I don't know how many times. Even when I was really young, like living in Dublin.
So like if a dog licked your cut,
it would heal it, yeah.
You kind of see them in Disney films though, right? Yeah. Like they kind of have like animals that like kind of lick a cut or a
and
wound,
it like gets better.
I always think of, I'm actually just thinking of Harry Potter and the Phoenix, and it's like when it cries a tear and it heals your wound. So it's kind of like the alternative of a dog's like
lick.
Lovely lick. Yeah.
But that's one that I've heard a lot over the years. Like even when I was younger living in Dublin, my mum used to always say, oh, if you get a cut, a dog's lick will fix it. And I was like, oh cool,
let's just go chase a dog.
And hopefully not get bit by a dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do have a cure for a dog bite.
I
will get to that because it's somewhere on my pages
on the list of cures that you found.
So then for headaches and toothaches, so two of them that I found came from Galway, and it was all to do with 2 people in Galway. So to cure a headache or toothache, some people in this district used to go to an old woman in Clonmara named Mary Joyce about 50 years ago. She used to tie a string around their heads and spend half an hour saying some kind of prayer over them. 9 days afterwards they used to go back to her again and the same rites were performed. The same thing used to happen the following 9th day, and after that the patient would suffer no more from headaches or toothaches, not toothpaste. A pipeful of tobacco was repaid. So God, all that she asked for in return was a pipeful of tobacco, and that was like your donation nearly.
Yeah, because like that's the way I see it now. Is like there's all these people that I do know. Some people even come into the shop and ask for a cure, and I'm like, oh Lord, I need to actually gather. Now I've met some people that obviously are faith healers and that. I don't know many people with the cure, of course, but it's really interesting how they don't ask for money. Like it's probably just that good deed. It's like when you give out something good, expect something back.
Good and back.
But I suppose I would also be, if I ever went, which I had went to a faith healer before, I would always give them something at the end of it as a way of saying thank you, because they're using their time at the end of the day. But I was reading this thing here as well, and it was like to do with practitioners. And it was like called a ban fasa, and it's a wise woman, and like they were known for like having the knowledge of herbal medicine and the cures, like, you know. And nowadays, like there was so many articles I found, but there's Sean Boylan, who was the mead manager. My dad actually went to him personally, like, you know, and it was my dad trained with mead or played with mead and would have sworn by him. There's a man local now to me, it's John Byrne, he's based out in Navan, and he's still doing that. I swear by that man fascinates me with the way he uses his practice. Like, he will tell you what is wrong, why the body's not working. If you were feeling a bit drained, he does a full body scan, he reads your iris, or your irises, like your eyes, using irisology, and makes up a herbal remedy that cures everything.
That's so cool.
It's just incredible. There was another name that was mentioned as well, I'm trying to think of it, but there's so many people actively doing this work. But they were saying like they were called fairy women back in the day, and I just God, through the amount of women back in the day that were accused of witchcraft, that were probably just natural healers. But as well, it said, like, you know, people who had the cure, so like for example the seventh son, they only they'd inherited the cure from a parent or a relative. But there was a thing here that, for example, is like one person who licked a lizard 9 times over a particular time period, at a specific location, could gain the cure for burns.
I actually have that one wrote down as well.
And there was another one here as well. So some had the cure for gallstones, eczema, thrush. I've heard of. Wasn't it that was you blow into their mouths?
Yeah, you blow into their ear. Oh wait, it's here. Any person that never saw their father can cure a disease called thrush.
Yes.
And a child affected with thrush was brought to a man who had never seen his father and was supposed to be cured by blowing into its ear.
Yeah, I think it was like a thing where if your father had died before you were born, if you were still in your mother's womb, before you were born, the father died, you could cure thrush. That was the only one my dad had told me that he knew, and I was like, oh my god. So this is something I did not ever, like, it's something I've never really researched before. I've heard of the story, I just never looked into it. As well, I'm just trying to see what else, like, you obviously have more, so go on ahead.
When you were speaking about the wise woman that time, the Banfasa, one that I've heard and that I have a book about at home is called Biddy Early.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Oh my god, the story of that is incredible, and her house is still there.
Yeah.
And I went and visited the house, and people have actually left like little kind of like ornaments in the house.
That's
like
respect on her.
Yeah, she was meant to have the blue bottle, and that was meant to be her cure. And I'm just looking at all the blue bottles behind you.
Yeah, they were my dad's.
That is so cool.
That's so weird.
And when you go into her house, people have left like little blue bottles all over the house as like a way of kind of asking Biddy for the cure of whatever they have. But like you walk in, there's just blue bottles everywhere. It's mad. So back to what we were saying.
That's so interesting though. Yeah.
What else do I have? If a person gets a bleeding out of the nose, the cure is by putting something cold at the back of your neck. A key is supposed to be the best, but in its place, a stone or wet cloth would do. Okay. I'd never heard that.
Yarrow was considered best for cures and potions and was sewn into clothes to prevent any illness. So obviously like immunity as such.
If you have corns, you walk through a bog in your bare feet.
Oh wow.
I never heard. A lot of these I haven't heard of.
Surely you know of dock leaves and how they get rid of nettle stings.
Nettle stings,
I still use that.
Yeah, so do I.
Anyone who would get a sting, I'd be like, oh, dock leaf. They're always nearby nettles.
Yeah,
so
they're always like within 10 foot of a nettle.
Yeah, honestly, it's like you'll always, when there's a nettle, there's a dock leaf, so you're going to find the cure straight away to prevent the pain.
A fox's tongue could dislodge a thorn which a needle could not remove.
Oh, that's a bizarre one.
I think that one and the one about the lizard, licking the lizard, they were the two that I found that I was like,
yeah, imagine licking a lizard like 9 times. I'm just thinking of Cambo now. It's like, what?
It actually is kind of like very similar to it. When I was saying this to Mum, there was one about, I don't actually have it wrote down, but it was about if you had a toothache, you were to put a frog into your mouth and rub it onto your tongue. And my mum turned around and she was like, yeah, that was the earliest form of Cambo. I was like, absolutely, it could be.
Absolutely. There's another one here. Beaten eggs and honey were given for coughs.
Oh,
yeah. So like raw eggs and honey mixed together.
Oh God.
Sorry. Go ahead.
There was cures at Blessed Wells. There is a blessed bush in Leitra, which is in Roscommon, called the Blessed Bush, and there's a well under this bush, and anyone who took a drink from the well was supposed to be cured. It doesn't say what it cured, but
it's interesting because there are so many Irish wells people go to, and they like consider it like holy water, or they'll drink it and ask for a wish, and they're everywhere. Yeah, and like, I mean, maybe it's linked to there's a blessing in the water.
Could be.
Maybe someone drank out of it that had a gift, and it was almost like, well, it's remains.
It's in there.
It's in there. You're gonna catch, or you're gonna cure something. But yeah, I believe that one. I believe that. I've drank out of many wells. I don't know if they were good, but like drank out of them anyway.
The hair of a dog is the cure for the bite of a dog.
Oh my god! Here's a mad one actually, and you were talking about the whooping cough or the whooping cough. Sheep droppings boiled in milk.
Oh god.
Was a cure for the whooping cough.
Oh god.
That's very bizarre.
I would not like to drink that.
The linen as well. Here's another mad one. One cure for thrush was to drink the milk of a weasel.
Oh my god.
Yeah, weasels. Actually, I had read this entire article solely on weasels. In fact, and I was like, "How did I get here?" But
you just went down that rabbit hole.
I was deep in the web. But it was saying like the amount of benefits it was, and I was like, not in a million years
would I do that.
Like honestly. But yeah, and then the linen had been used to wrap a corpse was considered a curative for a toothache.
God.
Like this is like really old Irish.
Yeah.
Like someone that died, wrap them up. Let's just keep a bit of that now, and let's put that on our toothache. Not a bother.
Because like I remember.
Crazy.
Oh, I must have been in like first year or second year in school, in secondary school, and I got shingles. And
oh god, that's awful.
I know.
I haven't had them. I've had chickenpox, but I've heard that's awful. Yeah,
and I remember I was in pain, and I like didn't want to go into school, but I had PE on the Monday.
Okay.
And Mum was like, "Oh, that's only an excuse not to be going into PE. Sure, you can go in anyways." I was like, "I'm in pain," and she was like, "Yeah, but you're going into school," and I was like, "Okay." So I went in and I came home and I was in bits when I came home, and I showed her and I had like all these little like spots all over me, and she was like, "Yeah, you have shingles," and I was like, "I told you I wasn't faking this."
Oh my god.
And I went to the doctors and they were like, "Yeah, it's shingles." They were like, "Take this antibiotic." So I was like, "Grand." So I went down, got the antibiotic, didn't do anything to me for about 2 weeks, and then a friend of my brother's came in and she was like, "I know someone who's the cure for shingles, do you want it?" And I was like, "Sure, look, I'll take anything at this point."
Yeah, worth it.
So I went and got your man's phone number off her and went and got the cure and went up to his house, and it was like the same thing as you said, they don't take money, it's like a donation that you give. So it was around Christmas time, I think, because I gave him a big box of roses and a bag of spuds.
Oh, that's like the most Irish gift ever. Oh my god, chocolate and spuds.
And I was like, I got the cure off him, and he just handed me these 2 blocks of tinfoil. And I was like,
I'm cured.
This looks very suspicious.
I'm cured.
But then he gave me them, and I was just sitting there holding these 2 blocks of tinfoil, like, what is this? And then he comes back into me with instructions, and I read it, and I was like, rub the butter, and I was like, oh, don't tell me I have to rub butter over myself. So then I was like, I didn't read it, put it back in the car, we drove home. Went home, and Mum was like, "Well, what did he give you?" And I was like, "These 2 blocks of tinfoil." And she's like, "Yeah, but what's in them?" I was like, "I don't know, I didn't open them yet." And we opened them up, and it was 2 big blocks of butter, and I had to rub the butter all over my body.
Oh, stop.
And like, when I say I was full of butter, like you could fry an egg on top of me, there was that much butter. So in the butter there was pig's blood, and that was what was mixed in with it, so I'm there rubbing the butter all over myself.
Did it smell?
Oh yeah, I smelt. I wasn't allowed to shower for like 3 days when it was on.
That's interesting, because I went to a healer there at the start of this year, Ray McNally, and I couldn't shower for 3 days, and I felt rotten.
Yeah.
I was like, what? And like, it wasn't like I wasn't smeared in butter, but I was like, this is rotten.
But
like,
this was just horrible. I was really just covered in butter, and I was just lying in bed covered in butter.
Oh.
And then eventually after the 3rd day I could wash it all off, so I was like, thank God. I was like, never wanted to get into a shower so quick in my life. And got into the shower, washed it all off, and then he was like, I think it was the day after, I actually found the instructions to it, but I forgot to bring them with me today.
Oh, that's cool.
And
but
then
okay.
and then I washed them off, and it said like, if it's not gone you can rub it in again and do the same thing.
Okay.
So then I think it was like a day later they were completely gone, and I was like, that is mad. Like, the antibiotics are still there, they weren't doing anything, and then this has just like completely stopped it. And I was like, there's definitely something. But you have to believe in the cure.
You do have to believe in the cure, and like obviously, like you're talking about there how the antibiotic didn't work. Like, you can see how Western medicine is like dying off in ways. Like, they're talking about how like ineffective antibiotics are in people, and we're seeing the changes now as well in regards to people going lenient or leaning away, should I say, from the Western medicine and going into the natural side of things, like the herbal medicine. Go into these doctors that would be working with the herbs and giving you these tonics that will rejuvenate the body, and like that's the way I see it now. Like there is a cure for everything,
for literally everything.
There is, like, and I mean that man John Byrne, like, and I'm not saying look, go to him if you've every problem under the sun. Like, of course there is times when we have to go to the hospital and see a doctor. I've been there, I was there last year, but he has cured cancer, do you know, in people, and I just think that's incredible. Like, they didn't need to go down the chemo treatment sector. Like, they were able to completely subside that, but believe in this man enough to be like, whatever you're going to give me is going to help me. Do you know, that with a good diet, it's like what we feed ourselves is so important as well. Like, you know, so it's so interesting, like the way this all stems from Ireland, and it's the same. Everything I read was going back to Ireland. It's not like it wasn't England, it wasn't America, it was all Ireland. And I was like, this is fascinating.
And I think if you were to tell like any tourist here, like if they come over and they're like, oh, I've a really sore leg, you're like, yeah, the grease of a goose is very good for a sore leg, they'd be like, oh, here, you are mad. And it's like, oh, I've a torn on my finger here that I can't get out. Oh yeah, get that fox over there to lick it. And it's like, what? Like, if anyone other country had this, they'd be like, no, you can't do this. Whereas in Ireland, we're just like, oh, sure, Johnny knows it'll cure there for torn. Go down there. Yeah,
like, I even seen there's a girl that I would have worked on when I was worked with, should I say, as an actor, but she's gone into like the filmmaking aspect of things now, and she's doing a documentary for the cure.
Oh, that's so cool.
God, I wish I had her name on the top of my head here, but I mean, look, for anyone that might be listening, and just to support her as well, she has a lot of things up. I'm sure you'll find it, but it's based in Cavan, so you might have Cavan listeners here on the podcast. Maybe. I don't know. we might have them. But in fact, she's doing a documentary based around the cures, but it's cool. Based in that area, cause maybe she's getting funding from this place, obviously. But I just think that, like, if you can support her, fantastic. Yeah, because definitely. I mean, if I knew somebody, I'd be sending her away. I don't know anyone that's from that area. But yeah, like, I mean, it's obviously still very common nowadays, and I kind of want to go and see more people now, just out of like, just even talk to them. It's not like, oh God, I need it for this or whatever. But there's a man here called Eamon McDermott, and he has the cure for ringworm in cattle. And what he does is he spits on the ground and makes he spits on the ringworm, and he makes a sign of a cross on the ground, and it goes away like a flash. Like, it actually just vanishes.
That is so
this
cool.
Is what I found, right? There's a woman with shingles went to a man in Inniskeen. He went out and got clay that never saw sun and had no worms. He had to dig down deep for it. He put the clay on her head and told her to come back in 3 days, and she got the cure. Then there was another one, stories that trip off his tongue as easily as, okay, no, this is just sidetracking here, but seventh son of a seventh son. This is another one. Remember we were talking about was it 9 licks?
Yeah.
If you put a live worm in the heart of a seventh son of a seventh son's hand, and when the worm withers and dies, the child is a cure for everything, so the story goes. And I just thought, wow, that's incredible. So, like, that's how they were able to tell if, for example, I'm going to say Ray McNally or whoever else. Yeah. There's many other people that's seventh son of a seventh son, I believe, but they might have been tested that way by their fathers, being like, oh, here, okay, I have the cure. Will they have the cure? I'm going to put a worm on their hand and
that's so cool.
Let it die, and if it dies in their hand, it means that they have the cure, because they're able to kill anything.
That is just
but
mad.
Why worms? I don't know. Yeah. Okay, I don't get that. But
see, we just get really sidetracked with one of these and be like, yeah, why is it a worm though?
Yeah, honestly, I'm like,
what else? An old cure for sore throat is snails. The snails should be broken up and placed around the person's throat in a cloth.
Oh my!
There's a lot that I read that
like
are
on their wrapped around their.
Yeah, so like you'd break up a snail, put it in a cloth, and then wrap it around. Yeah, I read it and I done the exact same thing as you. I went, oh
no, could not do that.
As you were saying, bluebells. The roots of bluebells, cowslip, and wild parsley are boiled together and then strained. This drink is taken for yellow jaundis.
Yellow jaundis, what is that?
It's, I actually don't know, but it's where like your skin goes all yellowy.
Yeah, because I know the name, but I was like, what does it do to me again? But yeah, I think you're right. It's like it's skin condition. Yeah, of some kind.
What else did I get? if a man never saw his father, blew his breath on his lip sore, it would be cured in a short time.
Oh my god.
There's
like
a lot
like
that
a
I
cold
found.
Sore.
Yeah, there's a lot that I found where it's like if a man's never seen his father, or if a daughter never seen her father, there's a lot that's kind of based around that I thought was
very few women that do this though, but there was a few that I found that that had done it, but a lot of men. I feel like women were very good with the herbal aspect of things, because they would have been out in the gardens quite a lot, especially if they were cooking. I suppose that would have been where it stemmed from.
Where a lot of it probably came from, like throwing different things in together.
They would have been looking for seasonings or whatever it might have been for food, and maybe they found these herbs and were able to test them and see. But I'd love to know where it all came from, like where it stemmed from. It's like, how did you learn what this was? Like, where did this originally come from? Like, let's just say, for example, lavender. That's used for relaxation. It's like an aroma scent, but they're like, they'd place that even over the door frames of houses, doorways into people's rooms, as a way of like bringing
heard that one before.
inner peace. Another thing as well, it's like, this is kind of like an old pagan thing as well, witchy thing. It's putting the broomstick over your front door, because it means you're sweeping away negative energy. You're not letting negative energy in. So negative energy comes in, comes out. So I actually have a broomstick placed over my healing room at home, because my mom was like, why are you putting that there? And I was like, because I don't want any negative energy in here. I was like, I know we sage the house like nearly every day, but I was like, it's nice to have this one little room as like your sacred space, knowing that it's protected. But anyway, I'll let you continue with your cures, because I know you have loads more.
In the olden days, if a child got mumps, 3 nibs of hair were got from its grandmother's head, and those were tied with a red ribbon and hung around the child's neck.
Imagine going up to your grandmother and being like,
I'm just like, here, Mary, I'm just going to cut. Thank you. And no, that one's grey. I don't want that one. I'll have that one. And then tying it around your neck and going into school and be like, well, lads, look what I got. That's Granny's hair.
That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Some of them that I found were like, they were really strange, like what you had to do. But then when like you think about how like they would have actually like who thought of that one? Like, who went over to their granny, cut 3 pieces of hair and tied it around their neck, and was like, that's me cured.
Exactly. There's another one here. It says like this was used for like wasting cures. So it says it involved leaving an offering representing the illness to decay somewhere else, like a rag on a particular tree at a holy place. And I was like, that is interesting, because like holy ground is like, it's not hollow. It is hollow ground. So hollow ground, it's like, leave that there. It's like no longer. It's like negative energy, because you think, exactly.
Yeah, they have the big tree as you walk up to the abbey, and it's like always full of stuff.
Yeah, that's it, and that's exactly it. And they do the same. I'm sure there's the fairy trees as well, where they leave offerings as well. So it's like you're releasing something, or you're asking for something, and it's usually granted. Do you know what I mean? Because I used to always make wishes at the fairy trees and everything, and just like be like, I want to find the partner of my dreams, or I want to have a happy life and a healthy life, and you'd leave like a coin. We used to always leave pennies, or if I had like a bracelet or a piece of ribbon or even a bobbin, I used to always tie it onto it, or leave it kind of, because I knew that the trees were kind of dying from that. I used to kind of just leave it kind of in the trunk in around that area. I was like, that shouldn't do any damage, but I hope it didn't anyway. I was like, good tree. Greta
Thunberg.
Oh god,
she'd be all happy.
I'd be like, oh please don't hate me.
So another one that I found was, long ago there were no doctors. The old people had cures for different diseases. There was a man living in Derrien long ago. This man had a cure for anyone who was sick. When a person was sick, they went to him. He got a piece of string, he put knots on the string. While he was putting the knots on the string, he said a prayer called Maureen Porrick. If they said any word of this prayer wrong, the person would not be cured.
I thought you were going to say they're going to die, but I suppose it's less dramatic. I suppose like prayer is powerful.
Yeah.
When you think of it.
It's very powerful.
It really is powerful. Like you see so many, like, and even like the likes, again, going back to the faith healers, like they do pray over you, like, and you can feel it.
Oh yeah.
Like I met an incredible man who's a faith healer, like, and like places I suffer with the endometriosis, so like it's all like, lower abdominal pain, burning sensation, achy feeling going down my leg and everything. And like he just placed, like, I mean, within 5 seconds had his hand hovering in front of my stomach, and my stomach went into this unmerciful amount of heat and pain, which I hadn't been experiencing that one day. And I was like, what is happening right now? But within time, like, he was able to tell me, oh, like, your right ovary is actually like not functioning properly, which is why the inflammation is all coming from your right hand side. So he was like, oh, do you get pain on your right leg? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, that's why. And it's going on to your left hand side, so it's spreading. And it felt like my body was actually trying to loosen out itself. So because it's tissue that's growing in the wrong place, and it felt like the tissue was like moving out of my body. And like, I mean, I feel great ever since that. And he's done 3 sessions on me now in the last few weeks, and it's constantly sending me healing. And I have noticed that I'm not in pain. I'm like, oh God, I actually haven't been in pain today. And I'm like, geez, like that, it's obviously working. So it's incredible what people can do. If that has healed me, incredible. Same with like reflexology. Like, you know, pressure points in the body, acupuncture. All of these are like natural ways. Like remedies nearly. But you're not using any like antibiotics. You're not consuming anything. You're simply like, acupuncture is pressure points as it is for the feet, and it's clearing any blocks that we have in our bodies from, again, going back to trauma or maybe just built up tension, because stress is such a huge killer for people, and it's relieving it all. So it's incredible.
I read that some cures can only work on certain days of the week.
Oh, I've never heard of that one before.
The one that I found was for a headache, and it said Patch Costello in Ballinasloe, and that's in Galway, had a cure for a headache known as afternoon pain. People used to get it in the evening or after dinner, and that was the reason it was called an afternoon pain. He used to measure some kind of tape around the invalid's head. This cure would only work on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So that one in particular only
works on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
That's so bizarre.
And like, you'd wonder, like, how does it only work on them days? Like, what? Like, if he done it on a Wednesday, what would happen? Like, would they just not be cured?
Or was it a thing that he worked on a Wednesday and they were doing 2 days that he could do it, and it was like, oh, it's the only day I pray. It was like distant healing as well with Reiki, like you send out healing somebody. So maybe that evening he's thinking of that person he's after curing and sending healing. I'm only thinking of like speculation here, like this is what they were doing, but I've no idea. Seen another thing here, they said like in South America they saw 7 sons of 7 sons were thought to be werewolves.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, I just saw that. I was like, wow, that's incredible. But yeah,
such like a random one, but so cool at the same time. What other one do I have? Oh yeah, going back to the one you said about the licking the lizard 9 times. A person that would have licked a lizard can cure a burn by licking it. Or another one is to get a raw potato and cut it into thin slices and rub it onto the burn.
There you go.
Like,
I found another one here on warts. It says bury the head of an eel in the ground. When the eel's head rots, the wart falls off.
Oh my God.
There's another mad one, yeah. Go on, you were saying about that though, yeah.
The one about the warts, there's one in Trim called The Jealous Couple. I don't know if you heard of that.
Never heard of these, okay.
So it's in the old ruins of, is it St. Abby's? St. Mark's? Or I can't remember the exact name. I think it's either St. Peter's or St. Mark's or something. But it's in Trim, and there's a tomb, and it has a couple on it, and they're called the Jealous Couple because they're not actually touching each other's hands or anything. There's a whole mad story. I can't remember it now. Okay. Stuart is going to kill me because I don't know how many times he told me the story. But anyway, it said that this tomb has the cure for warts. Right. So you go up to it and you bring a pin, like a needle, with you, and you stab each one of your warts with this needle, and then you put it onto the tomb. And once your needle rusts away, your warts will go away. But if you take someone else's needle from that and use it on yourself, you'll get their warts, and your warts will never be cured.
I was gonna say, like, that is just so like unhygienic. Oh my God.
Like, not even for the fact that you're taking someone else's, you're taking like what could potentially be a rusty needle, and then just like
I
no.
Just think of sepsis again. Yeah. I'm like, no, thank you. I'm alright.
No, I'm grand.
Cure for the whopping cough, the whooping cough, the whopping.
It was a whopper cough.
The whopper burger. Pass the affected child in and under a grey ass 3 times. Then get the ass to chew a piece of loaf bread. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. Before he swallows it, take it from him and get the child to eat it.
Oh my God.
What? This is literally under traditional Irish cures. I'm actually nearly crying here. This is... Just imagine that, like...
That is so
I'm sorry.
crazy.
That's too funny.
Like, I'd love to know, like, who, like, was in their garden that day and was like, I wonder if you pass a child through the grass 3 times. Get that to chew a bit of grass, then we'll put the grass that's chewing into the child's mouth. Will it be cured? It's getting warm in here.
I'm emotionally happy. Another cure for the whooping cough is if a girl marries a man of the same surname as herself, the brown bread she makes will cure the whooping cough.
Oh my god.
Isn't that mad? Cure for hair falling out. Wash the bald parts of the head with sheep's milk. And this one here is cure for any wound. Wash the injured part in one of the many blessed wells in the country.
There seems to be a lot about like the blessed wells.
So they'll be thinking, are we there drinking well water that's filled with someone's nasty
because I
injured
remember
parts?
my mum was in work one day and she had like a spot on her head, and one of the lads she was working with goes, you should go up to my Bullock Cemetery and dip your head into that well up there.
Okay.
And Mum was like, yeah, alright, yeah, I'm never going to do that.
Right, yeah.
And then I was like, sure, we'll have a look at it like and see what the story is. So we went up and the water was like stagnant green, and Mum was like, I am not dipping my face into that. So I was like, swish it around a bit, stick your finger in it and rub the water onto on your spot. And she was like, alright, yeah, are you going to do it as well? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So she was like, you go first. So I swished all the water around and like got a handful of it and just threw it onto my face.
Oh wow.
And like a load of my spots went, and I was like, Jesus. I was like, that's cool.
That worked.
But it could also be that I was like plastering my face in Sudocreme.
Okay.
As well. That like might have been.
Did your mum do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And hers went away as well.
Oh, that's very
So there definitely is something like with the wells. And like when you think about how many holy wells there is in Ireland, like you'd wonder then, does each one have a separate kind of cure to do something?
That's very interesting theory actually.
Because I found a really, really old graveyard in Donegal, and each part of the graveyard has a different cure. So there's a monolith in the middle of it, and you walk, which way is it? You walk through it anti-clockwise 3 times, reciting the Hail Mary and Our Father, and it cures back pain. There's a holy well, and if you dip your finger in and rub your face in it, it cures you. Can't remember what the cure for that one was. And then there was an altar, and there was 2 massive stones, like they were about that big each.
Right.
And if a man holds the stones in each hand, there was 2 of them, so you hold them like that, and you walk from the altar to the well and back 3 times, it was curing you as well. I can't really think of what the cure was for that one now. I read that many of them, I can't remember that one. But like this graveyard is literally, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's out this little back road of a mountain, and you just go out the bouncy little road and you land out, and you're just in the middle of a little tiny single track road, and then you have to walk through the fields to get to this. And I remember walking up and I was like, this is just so cool. And then you walk in and there's like a big sign, and it's like District Graveyard, and it's like all the little cures that it has, and it's so cool. But like there's definitely some old graveyards. Yeah,
like then I think of January 1st.
Oh yeah.
There's a one where you go down the stairwell, and there's a well there, and there's it's where the waterfall is.
Yeah.
I used to drink out of that all the time. I have no idea what the story is. I know there's a bridge named after the
Sarah's Bridge.
Bridge, yeah, and there's a whole story behind that. But Sarah's well is involved. There's meant to be, I think there's actually 2 wells. So there's one there's one you can drink out of, and there's one that's actually it's enclosed.
Yeah.
But the stream passes through, but you can't drink out of it because there's nowhere to like.
Yeah, but I know the one you're on about. It's like right beside the big waterfall, and it's like in on the left. Yeah. And there's like a little cup and all there.
It's so cute. It's a little spoon, and we used to always drink out of it. I remember I went recently, my mom's like, "You're not drinking out of that." And I was just like, "Oh right,
okay."
I forgot. Like, yeah, the amount of people that probably did touch that with their lips probably wouldn't be wise. But yeah, it's like fresh water that's coming out of it. Like you can see it kind of dripping into it all the time. Like, it's just mad. But it's ice cold all the time.
It's always freezing cold.
Lovely, like 'cause it's always in the shade. So it's like kind of like, God, like how did they manage to do that? Why did they do that? Is there a reason behind that? But what do you make of this? Like what's your opinion on the cure?
Well, I definitely believe in them. Okay. But I think there's some people that would probably go to it, and like I think if you're going to get the cure, you have to fully believe that the cure is going to work, or else like it's nearly a waste of time going, because you might be there saying, oh well, sure, it mightn't work, or what, my app rubbing butter all over my body and lying in my bed for 3 days and not showering.
You had to reference that, didn't you? Fair enough.
Like, that's what I was thinking at the time.
No,
I was like,
absolutely though.
but then I was like, when it actually cured me, I was like, okay, well, there definitely is something.
What age were you then? Teenage years, was it?
Oh, I was probably 13, 14.
So would you say from that age you actually did believe in the cure then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
From like that happening to me, I was like, there definitely is something there. And then when you actually like research into these and you're like, it's been going on for all these years and there's all these, like, we're after listing out so many there, and some of them are like the craziest things, but there's also some that you might have heard of before, and it's like, okay, well, I heard that when I was like 3 years old, so it was definitely passed down from people to people. But I think like it was definitely something big in old Ireland that people, this was their way of healing themselves, because as like some of them said, there was no doctors really, there was no, as you mentioned, there was no science into, and like they would have believed that these were inflicted onto them by maybe someone that didn't like them, or karma in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I have a huge belief in that. Like, I mean, like, look, words are curses as well, as I do often say, but it's very well that like people could have gotten sick from nasty energy that could have been going on back in the day, because you even think of Banshees of Inisherin, and like that kind of relates back to like the old Irish times, and it's a really accurate representation of how people would have been, like the hatred that people would have went to, like one simple thing and it's like, I'm done talking to you. Do you know what I mean? And that would have been the way it would have been, so it could have caused curses and harm, or people getting sick, and you'd be there thinking, what is going on here? But yeah, I think you're right. I think I was, the first time, well, I was 7 when I got that. I didn't fully understand it at the time. But looking back, I do. I went for the cure again for asthma when I was 12. I think it was before I started first year. And this man just brought me into this room that was like, he was actually in a hotel. Like, this man was like famous, but he had travelled up to County Meath, and my auntie had asthma, and she's like, oh, you need to bring the cold, because I was really bad with it from a young age. And I lay on this kind of massage bed. He got a tea light candle, placed it on my tummy, put it out with the glass so it got stuck to my tummy, said a prayer, right, pushed it down until it went out, took the glass off, and it went pop, like as it would, because it was suction. And he gave me an envelope, and he goes, and now you're healed. And then I left and I opened the envelope, and he was like, you have to eat these within the next 2 hours. And it was just an envelope filled with porridge oats. So I consumed the dry porridge oats, and in fairness, I actually haven't suffered with asthma since.
Mad.
So that's mental.
Yeah.
But there's so many different cures. I personally believe in it, but like that, you don't want to like push that on people. No. It's a choice. It's not like everyone goes to cure over going to a doctor, but I do think it's becoming more popular nowadays, especially. Like that time I went to Ray McNally, there was a queue of people going to this man. And there's so many other people, so it's definitely something I'd love to like look into and meet these people and be like, where did you learn this? Where did it come from? Do you know any other stories? Because we're losing out on all these stories.
Because I find it's a lot of like the older generation that would like,
they're the ones that know it.
Yeah, like you wouldn't see young people recommending. No. Like even the posts I'd see on Facebook, it's always like the older people that are like, oh, he has the cure for this, or she has the cure for this, and it's like, doesn't that like lost a connection with the younger generation where people are like, oh, sure, just go to the doctor.
Yeah, and that's like, what's worrying. It's like we're actually losing out on it, even if it's not to use it, it's to know of the stories of it. And I know there could be books on it, but it's not the same as actually hearing these stories from the old people, which I think, as they often say, respect your elders. Yeah. These stories, like they could have, like you think, whatever age, someone could be in their 80s. They also had their parents before that. That's like 180 years, and their grandparents is another, whatever, maybe 100 years, or well, maybe less. But you know, you've got so many years built up there of information, knowledge, history, storytelling. And we're missing out on all of it.
And it's just like, it's slowly just going to fade away into nothing, which is, I think, the most concerning part. Like, I think that website dukas.ie is such a gold mine for this stuff. Because I remember I researched like entire college projects off of this, like just getting these old stories where it's like a story that you wouldn't, like, you can look up a story, but it's not, these are like just written accounts, and it's just like when you read them, it's like, oh my god, it's so cool. And like, I think there's like 50 to 100,000 records, and like I literally sat and I just went next, and just read through. Even some of them were like, had nothing to do with cures. It was like about land in Galway, and I was like, that's actually really interesting.
There you go. Like, I mean, we are surrounded by these stories the history and obviously the power of healing. And it stems quite a lot from Ireland too, as well, by the sounds of things, because we know of the Celts, we know of the Druids, and now we hear of these people now in modern day Ireland still using these old mental methods. Like some of them aren't so crazy. They're obviously just placing their hands on the head or on the shoulders or on the where you're in pain, and they're trying to take it away. But you'd love to nearly love to know how they feel doing this work. And
I think that would be a really interesting part to look into, is how, like, does, like, I know Reiki, that can, like, affect you and drain your energy. Like, you'd wonder, someone who's doing a cure, does that drain them? Does it take their energy away? Like, it'd be a really interesting conversation to have with someone who has the cure, and, like, be able to sit down and be like, how do you feel?
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I wonder, are they happy doing this work? Are they proud of it?
Yeah.
Because some people might be like, I'm doing this because my father done it, and when he passed away I took over.
Yeah.
We don't know. Or maybe people were desperate and they were like, can you please help me? I know that you're, you know, a healer, that you have the cure. I need help. And you feel kind of pressed into it. So it'd be nice to hear, like, their side. Put their sympathy into it. Because, like, I mean, that must be, it's either enjoyable or not so enjoyable. But the old ways were certainly worse than what they're doing nowadays. That's for sure. But I think that's really it for this episode of the Misty Rambles. Thank you as always for tuning in, and be sure to do so again for next week's episode. We'll have something new and different.
Exciting.
Exactly. As always. This podcast is available on Spotify,
YouTube,
Amazon Music, and
Google Play.
Yep. And we would actually really appreciate if you could share it, and if you really enjoyed this episode, give it a rating. We hope you have a beautiful day, and hope you tune in again for next week's episode.
Have the best day.
Bye.
Bye.